Good evening and welcome to Fired Up. I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin, coming to you from the gun store here in beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. This show is about guns, related political issues, and self-defense issues, primarily self-defense. We are on KSHP 1400 AM radio and on YouTube at Fired Up with Bob Irwin at this hour, 5 to 6 p.m. every Thursday. The YouTube version stays on forever, so if you miss a show, you can go back and pull up YouTube, go to Fired Up with Bob Irwin, and find out what we said the week before or 3 years ago, if you would like. Tonight, my guest is firearms instructor Lenny Davis. Welcome back, Lenny, one more time.
Sir.
A little bit of your background, please.
I'm for Lenny Davis, and for you that haven't seen the show before, I'm a retired special agent with Department of Homeland Security. And I, up until recently, have been an instructor for the last 8 years for the U.S. State Department in their Global Anti-Terrorism Assistance Program. And now I have a position here in Las Vegas as the Director of Training for Textratics International.
A really well-versed guy, especially when we get to talking about terrorist issues, because he spent most of his career training anti-terrorism teams all over the world, and
Yes.
His resume would take more than this show has, but Lenny knows what he's talking about. If you have a question or comment about anything that comes on the show, you can send a text or email to me, Bob at firedupmail.com. We answer all the texts and all the questions that come in. If it's something that appears to be of general interest, we may address it on the next show. We get 10 people writing about the same thing. But if you want to email something to Lenny or one of our other guests, one of our attorneys, you can send it to that same address and I will forward it to the proper party and you'll get your answer. We always start off with a few cases of self-defense, good guy use of firearms. There are several hundred of these incidents every week in the United States, and I tend to cull through the ones available to me. I have some carnivore programs that look for shootings and self-defense issues, and find some that are appropriate to bring out to the listeners and the viewers of the show. The idea is that you can put yourself in the position of the victim, and we will explain what he did, what was right, what was wrong. Some are right, some are wrong, some are foolish. But they all are food for thought for people who keep a gun in their house, to put yourself in the scenario and think, what would I have done or what could I have done better? We're not trying to criticize people here. Most of them are great self-defense cases. But there are times you can tweak it a little bit and say, have we done this just a little bit different? Maybe not telling the nearest reporter, boy, am I glad I killed that guy. Because that'll come back to bite you later. Try and avoid that. Anyway, we're going to go through those cases and comment on what happened. So we will start out. This is Fox News 8 report from Cleveland, Ohio. This was on the 7th of this month, a few days ago. A suspect attempted to rob a Family Dollar store on West 117th and Bel Air Avenue. The robber walked in around 3 p.m. and announced the holdup. An armed customer drew his gun and told the robber to drop his gun. Shots were exchanged at that point between the robber and the armed citizen. The robber, who was hit in the head, was transported to Metro Health Center in Cleveland, if you all know where that is. His condition, as at the time I got the story, is unknown. According to the Lindale police chief, that's the Lindale area of Cleveland, his officers were called to the scene just after 3 p.m. There was a man with a CCW permit, and the accused robber shot at each other, but only the suspect was injured. The man who shot the suspect was not an employee of the store. Police are still investigating. Pretty straightforward. We don't have a lot of details of this. It's another case of an armed citizen saving the day, literally. The reason I picked out this story, because the bad guys sometimes resist anyway, even if it seems foolish to you, and you go, I wouldn't do that. If somebody pointed a gun at me, I'd just run. In this case, when the guy yelled, drop the gun, the bad guy didn't. Instead, he began firing, and they had an exchange of shots. Fortunately, the armed citizen wasn't hit. You got to consider when you are in one of these, or you walk into and there's a robbery, and there are innocent people around. We don't know the background here. We don't know a lot of details. Whether the situation is worth you risking your life over, something to consider. Certainly, if the guy had drawn his gun and the robber had killed him, his family would wonder, why did you do that?
Yeah, exactly. Well, and you also run the risk of, shots were exchanged. In this case, the good guy hit his target. The bad guy didn't. What if that bad guy's round would have struck a civilian standing in line? Yeah. You have to look at this, and I stress this a lot when I teach law enforcement classes. The guy comes in, he's going to rob the family dollar store. If he's just going to clear out one of the tills, what's he going to get? Maybe a couple of $100. Is that worth someone's life for? We've run scenarios before where you're standing in line at the grocery store, or standing in line at the store, and the guy comes in and this is a robbery. Do you take action at that point? We run the same scenario where he goes, okay, it's here comes the robbery, he's doing it again. Now he's going to start shooting people. Then that's,
that changes the whole scenario.
Changes the whole
if
scenario.
There's a clear threat to somebody's going to die, or he says that.
Yeah.
Give me the cash, I'm going to start killing people with this guy. That's the time to shoot the guy.
Yeah.
The clear threat is there. And, this guy's a hero. And I don't want listeners to misunderstand that. And again, we don't have all the details, but you need a little decision-making depending on who's in the room and whatever. And this is a dangerous thing to do. And sometimes you do things that are dangerous. It's worth the risk because of the scenario. Sometimes it's not. So, a lot to consider when this happens. Not just the gut reaction, I'm going to shoot this guy. Because there's lots of other things involved, like your own life and your children having no father and so forth. Anyway, the gun store, we teach free concealed carry permit classes 3 times a week, every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. You can sign up online on our website, thegunstorelasvegas.com. And what we do in the class is we address this kind of thing, because very few of these are really simple.
No.
Sometimes they are, but usually they're not. Again, questions or comments, you can direct to Bob at firedupmail.com, and please like us on Facebook if you get a chance to do that. Oh, I got a new sign to like us on Facebook. Look at this. Now that is cool.
You must be a Vegas magician. You made the other one disappear.
One day I may tell you how I do that. KETV7 in Omaha, Nebraska. Police say an intruder was shot after trying to break into a home near Josephine and 70th Streets around 2:15 a.m. Saturday morning. A man and a woman told police they were house sitting when they woke up to find a man kicking in the door of their bedroom. One of the house sitters, a 19-year-old male, fired. He had a rifle with him. Fired, and his bullet struck the intruder. The intruder ran out away from the scene. He was soon captured in the 8000 block of 67th Street. This took place on 70th. He's running from the scene at 2:15 in the morning. The police are responding. How many people are running down the street that time of night? Not damn many.
And bleeding from a rifle wound.
Yeah. So anyway, they miraculously got him. Paramedics took him to Nebraska Medicine. He was undergoing surgery. He's expected to survive. The 26-year-old suspect is the ex-boyfriend of the homeowner. Here, the armed house sitter was questioned and released by the police. They don't expect any charges. What happens here is actually now we discover this guy was looking for his ex-girlfriend, and that's who the target was. She wasn't there. There was a house sitter there instead. So he didn't find who he wanted. I made a note to myself, I probably shouldn't, but if you're a bad guy and you want to murder somebody, you might call ahead and make sure they're in the house instead of an armed person.
Bob, in this case, are you telling me that probably a restraining order didn't have its full legal effect?
Well, we don't know that he had a restraining order. I would presume she probably did. They're always a good idea. And in any case, this is a good shoot, obviously.
Okay.
The couple that's there are watching the house, and he found the wrong target. He found somebody he wasn't looking for that had a gun. So it worked. It's a good shooting. Any way you slice this, it's just
Wrong house, idiot.
Wrong house. Yeah, you idiot. You know, it's like somebody robbing a cop bar.
Well,
you
it
know,
was the right house, wrong people there.
happened in, you know, they, you know, I worked on a case of a cop bar robbery once where a guy walked in and robbing a cop bar and started shooting at people, and like everybody had a gun, you know. This was, you got to do your homework. We offer ladies only shooting and personal safety class twice a month on the second and fourth Friday. We just have one going on now. Actually, they're finishing up in the range as this show is being done. Taught by noted instructor Maggie Mordaunt, who appears on the show. She's on last week's show, actually. Every 2 weeks. So there's one tonight. So 2 weeks from now, there'll be another one. You can sign up again on our website, thegunstorelasvegas.com. And we will go to WSPA News 7. This is in Abbeville County, South Carolina. Another house sitter. A house-sitting teen interrupted a trespasser while the resident family was out of town at a funeral. The teenager told deputies he confronted the suspect, who was walking toward a shed full of equipment on the property just after 3:30 in the afternoon on Friday. The house sitter, who was armed, says the suspect reached behind his back. The teen then fired because he was afraid the suspect was armed. He thinks he may have shot the intruder since he appeared to be limping as he left the scene. The Anderson County Sheriff's Office K-9 units and helicopter tracked the suspect for several hundred yards. They lost him, which leads them to believe he had a waiting car, maybe an accomplice, but that's where he parked his car. He's described as 6 foot tall with dreadlocks, the Abbeville County Sheriff said. The sheriff added, it's a crying shame that a family can't pay their respects to a loved one at a funeral without having to worry about someone breaking into their property. The sheriff reminds people that if they are away for a funeral or vacation, they can contact law enforcement officers to do checks on their property, which is true about anywhere. The house sitter defends himself. This is a vastly different case. Mm-hmm. This is the middle of the day. The guy is on the property moving toward a shed in the backyard which contained merchandise or things that belong to the family. Here, the house sitter comes out with a gun, interrupts the guy, what he's doing on the property, and the bad guy apparently reaches as if he had a gun. We haven't determined that he had a gun because he ran away. He may well have had one. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt that he had a gun. So there's an obvious different solution here. This is not somebody kicking the door of your bedroom at 2 a.m., different house sitter. This is a guy in the middle of the day. Why not just sit in the house, see the guy, call 911 and say, hey, there's a prowler in the backyard, and let the cops show up. I'm not telling you this is a bad shooting, but it's unnecessary from what we know here.
Right. Well, here in Nevada, of course, you can't use deadly force for property crimes. If he approached this guy with a I don't know what kind of firearm he had, rifle or shotgun, whatever. If he approached this guy,
we don't know either.
Yeah, with a firearm out, and said, "What are you doing here?" You know, he made that movement for a gun. Yeah, at that point it becomes a potential deadly force situation. But why push it? I mean, here's the other thing. What if the guy did have a gun and he was faster and better shot
than you? Yeah, this is a case where that wasn't necessary for the guy to intervene, is the point we're trying to make. There's lots of time here to call the cops, keep it under observation, let the guys with the free lawyers and the body armor make the interruption, and the dogs and the helicopters and the jail to put him in, etc. you can certainly shoot in self-defense, but if you place yourself in this kind of position, this was pretty dangerous. He's probably okay in South Carolina. You know, the other bad part of the story, and the reason I actually pulled it, was this is a guy who apparently is just reading the obits. They announce when the funeral is going to be. They know everybody in the family is going to the funeral. In this case, it was out of town. Having somebody watch the house for you is a really good idea. I admire what the police chief said, you know, we'll do drive-bys and look at the house. They'll just sit across in the weeds and wait till a police car drives away, and then they'll break in because they know the next night going to be there for a while. That's nice of the sheriff to say. It's not really effective against burglars, but you got to have somebody watch the house for you. If you got a lot of valuable stuff and it's announced in the paper you're going to be out of town, you need to have somebody watch the house.
And let me interject something else too. You got to be careful. A friend of mine several years ago, her younger teenage daughter was a big Facebook fan, you know, was on Facebook all the time, and said, hey, we're going on vacation for a week starting Saturday.
Oh, geez.
And guess what? They came home to a burglarized house. Yeah. And it was someone who was a Facebook follower of hers. And at the end of the day, it's, you know, you got to be careful with your information, folks. If I take off for a while, I don't go, hey, goodbye, I'm going to come on over and rob my house. Of course, my Rottweiler usually has something to say about it. But yeah, it's very, very careful with your information. And there crooks are opportunistic individuals.
You get your neighbor to get the newspapers, all that stuff. They put that in all the anti-burglary sites, the common things you want to do. Let your next door neighbor, you're gone for 2 days. If they see lights come on or something unusual, please call the cops. And, you know, that'll help a lot. But don't announce it on social media. The obits, you know, you're going to announce that, you know, our son died and we're going to Nebraska for the funeral. They know.
Yeah.
And you know, these guys are just scumbags. You wait till somebody dies and then you rip off their house. Anyway. Question or comments to Bob at Fired Up Mail, and you can like us on Facebook. If you're planning a corporate event, the gun store, we do machine gun shooting and pistol shooting and shotguns. We have an indoor range that we have all these goofy shooting packages, and you can try World War II guns and so on. It's really fun, and we do large groups. You may contact Melissa at the gun store, LasVegas.com. That'll direct you to our sales department and get you all set up if you want to do that or have a wedding. We do weddings too. That's a whole other story. KCBY TV 11 in Myrtle Point, Oregon. This is on the 5th. A few days ago, police received a report that a would-be burglar had entered a teen's home on Spruce Street just after 8 a.m. on Wednesday morning. The teen, they say the 15-year-old boy grabbed a shotgun and shot the suspect in the leg. The teen resident feared for his safety and was justified in shooting of the individual police believe was trying to burglarize the home. Under Oregon law, if someone commits a burglary in your home and you fear for your life, you may use deadly force to protect yourself. Of course, that's pretty much the law everywhere, except Washington, D.C., I guess, and Maryland and New York and Washington. That's clearly what happened here, said the Coos Bay District Attorney. Name is Rob Frazier. The guy was committing a burglary. The young man in question was obviously scared about what was going on. And so there's no question in my mind, this is the DA, that this was a justifiable shooting. Police identified the 33-year-old suspect. He was transported to a hospital for non-life-threatening injuries. There's no word yet on the charges he's actually facing. This is a house with a lot of people in it. The 15-year-old was the last one. He's leaving for school. The parents had gone or left for work. This guy apparently thought everybody was gone. And we can be relatively sure that with the comments of the DA that this school kid is not going to face any charges. And obviously he'll be a hero to all his chums at school. This is going to be a wow, you know, This is Myrtle Point, Oregon. It's fairly rural, and there's no way this is going to become a bad shooting. This is just a random thing where the last person left in the house, I guess the guy thought he left already,
Well, it'd be
Party
very,
counted people leaving and
it'd be very simple because this guy's probably sitting on watching the house and
Yeah.
sees mom and dad leaving their cars or whatever and figures that, oh, well, gee, everybody's gone.
that's it.
And don't realize 15-year-old's at home, number one, and number two, that he has a shotgun, and number three, that the kid knows how to use it. Well done, young man. Well done.
Great. Perfect. This is why should your 15-year-old know how to work a gun? We've done several stories here where youngsters have gotten a gun when they were the only ones left in the house and used it, either pointing it or actually firing it to protect younger siblings and themselves from intruders. They like to come to an empty house, and sometimes they get surprised when the kid is homesick from school, and
Boom.
there you are.
Literally.
Again, free concealed carry permit classes every Monday, Wednesday, and every Saturday on our website, thegunstorelasvegas.com. Lots of stuff. This is Okeechobee News from Okeechobee County.
Okeechobee.
Okeechobee?
Okeechobee.
Okeechobee. I knew I was going to say that wrong. I thought out here we had all Indian names. In Florida, they're all Indian names.
Well, yeah.
Florida is an Indian name.
Seminoles,
Yeah, that's the football team. They have Indians, actually?
Yeah.
Anyway, deputies responded to a
Native
911
Americans.
call and entered a Taylor Creek Isles home shortly after 2 in the afternoon. Upon entry, they found a woman standing before them with a .38 caliber Smith & Wesson revolver in her hand. Her gun was pointed at the floor. The deputies asked her to put the gun down, and she did. The 77-year-old woman had accidentally, it turned out, shot her 76-year-old husband when she was frightened by a noise in the garage of their home. The man was struck once in the chest by a .38 caliber round. He was airlifted to Lawnwood Regional Medical Center at Fort Pierce. He's expected to make a full recovery. The name of the husband and wife were not released. The woman has not been arrested. The sheriff said the incident is under investigation. The interesting sidelight to this is a woman, she hears a noise in the garage. She forgets that her husband's out there. She goes back out there, has apparently an accidental discharge, and it hit him, or at least an unintentional shot. The ironic part of this is the first two Okeechobee County Sheriff's Office deputies to enter the front door of the home, two guys named Euro Todman and Jose Gardono, with the same two deputies involved in a shooting a week earlier, July 30th, where a man had just killed his wife, and they responded to the call, came through the door. There's an armed guy with a gun, and there was shots fired. Now they walk in a week later, same neighborhood, and there's an elderly woman. This was an elderly man on the other side that had killed his wife. They showed incredible restraint, not firing. They had just done this, and the guy fired at them.
Yeah.
And this was a totally different situation. The people are the same ages, same neighborhood, same two cops respond. They obviously they were right in the shooting of the guy who shot at them, so they're back on duty. They were suspended for a day, and then they're back on duty. They just showed great restraint. You never know what the other side is thinking, and I am just amazed that when they saw the gun, they just didn't let loose on her.
These guys are tremendous sheriff's deputies. The people of Okeechobee County in Florida should be very proud of these guys because they are true professionals. And, like you say, a week before, to be confronted by a very similar situation where they actually were fired upon before they had to fire. And here they walk into this, house, and this woman has, a gun in her hand. That took a lot of
just bang.
Yeah.
That's
and the bad thing is it would have been a tragic shooting, but it would have been in all intents and purposes a good shooting because of the peril that these guys' lives would have been in.
Fortunately, she wasn't so distraught when they said put the gun down. She did that.
Yeah, exactly. And I just, I have to snicker. I'm sorry if I because this poor lady did shoot her husband. Oh yeah, I forgot he was in the garage and I heard a noise at storm. But
well,
anyway,
there was a lot of
yeah.
where I pulled this from the news report. There were like 50 responses to that, comments, and most
I was
of them
not
were
one
that.
of them.
Most of them were that, finally wised up, shouldn't like the old guy, and but,
You dirty.
yeah. Anyway, Crossroads of the West Gun Show is in a couple of days, August 13 to 14 at Cashman Field downtown. I still have about 20 passes left to get in for free. It's a $15 or so. You got to pay for parking anyway. We can't seem to get around that. If you will drop me a note at our Fired Up Mail address there with your contact information, the first name and telephone number, I will leave a pass out for you here with our cashier at the retail store. If you get that in the next day or two, actually the show is Saturday and Sunday, so you've only got a few days left. I've got about 20 of these left. I would appreciate just ask for one because that's really all I can give you. But it'll save you $15. The gun store will be down there, and I'll be there Saturday. I'm actually doing a seminar.
Oh, really?
10 o'clock down at the show for Newsmax. They're doing a thing on the question 1.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to be a panelist on that, and then we have a table there. I'll be there till at least noon. So
Oh, good.
if you have a question you want to ask, that's the time to get a hold of me and say, I didn't want to write you an email, but I've got this problem. We get that. That's fine. I'd be happy to talk to you in person. I'll be there from 11 to noon at least. Probably about it. We're really busy this weekend. We've got lots of stuff booked. And we're running our tail off because we're short of staff. So
You're just being so popular.
yes, more than I'd like to be at some time. But do send me a note and we will get you a free admission. You have to come by here to pick it up because time is short. This is a good story. This is a good story. The Jackson Times Union in Brunswick, Florida, this is outside of Jacksonville, Florida, said just before 4 in the afternoon last Saturday, a man wearing a mask, a hood, and maroon pants, a stylish robber, came into the Unique Styles Barber and Salon in the 1000 block of K Street. It was drizzling outside, so there's 2 guys in a barber, the barber and his main man, and there are 2 guys in there. And there's a beauty shop next door that's interconnected where the ladies go, and this is the guy's barbershop. Anyway, they gave him the benefit of the doubt because it was raining outside a little bit until he pointed a pistol at the owner's head and demanded money. The robber said, "You know what time it is? Give it up." The owner said he immediately handed the hooded man all the money in his pocket, as did the second barber who cuts hair in the chair next to him. The robber then fled the barbershop. The owner followed him out the door in order to show police which way the guy had run. Okay. When the masked man saw the victim was following him, he fired a shot over his shoulder as he jogged away. He likely didn't count on his victim being armed, the barber said. So when he fired the shot, I fired back, is the barber talking. I thought I hit him because he fell, but he got up and started running. As the suspect ran through several city blocks, a resident who had seen him flagged down responding police. A whole bunch of residents directed police to a vacant house. There was about 20 listed, and this one said, this one said, and the whole neighborhood is out there pointing where this guy went. Anyway, the police found him hiding under the house they pointed at. They were able to recover the stolen money, his firearm, and his hood. The barber said, the owner said, "I've been in the shop since 1999. Ain't nothing ever happened here." The suspect, age 17, is charged with 2 counts of armed robbery, 3 counts of aggravated assault, and possession of a firearm in the commission of a crime. This is similar to the story I talked about earlier, where the guy fired at the victim when the victim came out. This guy was following him, and wanted to notify police. It was a guy in a maroon pants who was running through the neighborhood. But it turned out the neighborhood is really tired of street crime. And there must have been 20 people that came up to the responding cops and went, he went that way, this way. They pointed out the house he went in, where he crawled in under the house. So the cops were able to get him out. It's a wonderful story. If you look this up in the Jackson Times on the 8th, that you will discover it's just a heartwarming story of all the neighborhoods coming together because they're just tired of people getting shot, and you know they want these guys off the street.
And folks, when you're a good witness, be a good witness, be a live good witness. This guy got very lucky, but be a good witness. And when you are a good witness and you do this, guess what? Crime is reduced in your neighborhood. Yeah. And be a citizen. I think that probably upsets me more than anything when I see, especially in urban areas where, oh well, there's Chicago, Detroit, some of these places. There's shootings there every day, multiple shootings every day, but nobody saw nothing. You know what? Stand up to these people, take your streets back. It's the only way it's going to get better, folks. Be a witness, do the right thing.
Lenny, I understand that, and I know you understand the flip side of that.
I do.
I've run into it several times. You got to live in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
If this guy, he's an independent robber, obviously. He's been one of the organized gangsters.
Yeah.
This wouldn't probably have happened because they're afraid of retribution from the other gang members. They're living in a world where, the anonymous tip line really works. We have those here. Every agency in the United States has anonymous tip lines, and you can keep your identity a secret. Call somebody. If you don't trust the police that they're going to, call a reporter for the local paper.
Yeah.
And they will keep they keep their sources quiet. Most of them do. I mean, they'll lose their reputation completely if they write you off. You don't have to give me a name. Just say, I will on Mayberry Street, and I saw this robbery, and the guy was wearing a green coat, and I recognized him from high school. His name is Jerry. Click. It'll give the police something, and then they'll make the case. So anyway, free firearms classes again, Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. Please like us on Facebook. Here's another really good story. This is San Gabriel Valley Tribune. It was on the 7th. This is Norwalk, California. A resident shot and wounded a knife-wielding intruder who broke into his home while a family was inside at 2:30 a.m. on Sunday morning. It's late Saturday night. This is the 14,000 block of Greystone Street if you're from the area of Norwalk. A woman at the home heard noises coming from the front of the house and alerted the male resident. Wake up, honey. There's noise. So he went to investigate. While he was doing that, apparently the suspect went around to the rear of the house and broke through a set of French doors there, armed with a knife. The resident then, the male resident, shot the intruder in the torso. The suspect turned on foot, fled, but he was taken into custody a block away by the sheriff's deputies. Again, it's 2:30 in the morning. The guy's running down the street bleeding. He's pretty easy to find.
It was not profiling.
Great detective work. The guy that's running down the street a block from the house, this is
It's what they call in the business a clue.
Yes, they solved the crime.
Yeah.
By diligent police work. Look, there's a guy stumbling around that's bleeding over there. The wounded suspect was transported to a hospital. He's listed in stable condition. Children were present in the home, but no family members in the home were hurt. The resident who shot the burglar was not arrested as detectives continue looking into what appears to be a clear case of self-defense. Perfect. A gun in the home used to save the family. I'm reading this and a little more details through the police reports. This will be a absolute clean, wonderful self-defense shooting. But looking at this, you got some street puke with a knife who breaks into the house. There's children there, And the guy has a knife. If this guy does not have a gun, if this is an unarmed household, this is an absolute disaster. Have a gun in your home. Get a gun, get training how to use it. Those are intertwined. Did a story last week about a very lucky lady who had no training at all and shot a guy in the dark and happened to hit him. Get training. Any gun shop you shop at, they will direct you to somebody that teaches what now we all call gun safety courses, self-defense courses. We do them here again 3 times a week, our concealed carry class, but you can take the class anyway, even if you're not getting a permit. The only expense of the class is the qualification for Metro, which is ammunition cost, and a $10 fee for our girl to type up all your paperwork for your concealed weapon permit. If you just want it for training to learn, it's free. So come on in and 3 days a week, get some education.
Because this guy was obviously uneducated about one of the first major rules of firefights, and that's never bring a knife to a gunfight.
Well, yeah, the bad guy.
Yeah, the bad guy, not the homeowner. The homeowner is great. And again, this is the People's Republic of California. It's going to be harder and harder. What is it, January 1st? Those new laws come into effect.
Lots of new gun laws.
Yeah, be aware of that, folks. I mean, it's unconscionable what the California
We're gonna
done.
talk about a couple of those here in just a second. That's enough of the shooting case. Anyway, I just like this. The guy breaks in with a knife, and the armed homeowner saves the day. And it's
wrong house, scumbag.
Perfect. Yeah, surprise. I have a gun. I just got to imagine the guy's brain right when he comes in with a knife, and there's a guy standing there pulling the trigger of a gun, and his brain going, "Uh-oh."
Poor career choice.
National Shooting Sports Foundation just announced it's pursuing legal action against Massachusetts Attorney General. She put out last week an enforcement notice that would appear to ban sales of any semi-automatic rifles in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. This is not a court decision by a judge. This is not a referendum vote. This is not anything their legislature did. She decided on her own to reinterpret what their statute that already exists means is an assault weapon. And she decided that an assault weapon, which is illegal in her state, was anything that takes a detachable magazine capable of holding more than 10 shots. So she has retroactively, by her opinion, outlawed every AR-15 in the state. Massachusetts not famous for having friendly gun laws anyway. But this is entirely new in jurisprudence. She just decided the old law meant something different than everybody else thinks, and is apparently planning to enforce it. So, Hillary's going to do the same thing. She's going to decide what's an assault weapon means in her own right, and probably do the same thing later on. This is only Massachusetts. The National Shooting Sports Foundation jumped on it. They and several other gun rights groups are suing, of course, to prevent this from taking effect. We'll see what happens. Also last week, Remington filed a motion in the Bridgeport, Connecticut Superior Court asking for a dismissal, a summary judgment dismissal for a case brought against the company by some families of victims of the tragic December 2012 Sandy Hook shooting. What is happening here is some of the family members are suing Remington for monetary damages for the loss of their children, because Remington, being the owner of Bushmaster that made the rifle, put into commerce this AR-15, and they should have known that its only use is for killing children, I guess. They should have known that a woman who bought it would be murdered by her son, who's nuts, who then would steal the gun from his murdered mom and murder a bunch of helpless school children. Obviously, this case depends on the lawyers involved, the judges involved, or a jury if they're involved with having common sense. We have a thing currently called the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Firearms Act. It's a federal law passed by Congress, etc., that says a firearms retailer, distributor, a manufacturer, or gunsmith cannot be sued for criminal misuse of a third party unless the individual who puts the gun into commerce does something illegal or clearly causes somebody to get a gun who shouldn't have one. They are immune from suit under this federal statute. Hillary has said that she intends to, her word was, rescind the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act. I don't know how a president does that, but we have some precedent in our current president just making the rule.
You mean getting rid of the Immigration Enforcement Act?
The president has taken a lot of powers on, and one of the ones that Hillary, being his third term, has said she will rescind, not exactly her word, but something to that effect. Law. She can't rescind a law. Laws can be overturned by judges in the Supreme Court. They can be rescinded by Congress voting on it, etc. The president
does not have that power.
But if she does, because we already know that Obama has a lot more power than we thought he did, or he thinks he does, the gun industry at that point in the United States will close. None of us can afford to enter a gun into commerce or repair a gun or anything, manufacture a gun, if we're responsible for criminal acts by third parties. Be the equivalent of suing General Motors because a drunk driver ran over somebody.
I was just going to say, folks, you got to think about this. It sounds like a good idea. Well, let's just make that, because those evil weapons. Basically, it is an inanimate object that is picked up, and if it is used properly, it is a safe tool. Yes, can be used as a weapon, but it's a tool. A vehicle, and this is where the slippery slope comes in. I hate to use that legal term, but this would start a slippery slope, because if they can get rid of a law that protects a firearms company for manufacturing something that's misused, criminally misused by a third party, how many people DUI, driving under the influence, every day in this country injure or kill someone? That's one step away from that, folks. Believe me, you say, oh no, that had never happened. It's one step away from that. There's no legal difference.
It's kind of the equivalent right now. If a bartender serves someone who is clearly drunk and doesn't take his car keys, and the guy leaves, or he makes him leave, throws him his keys and says, get out of here, knowing the guy's drunk, the bar can be sued.
Yes.
But the liquor manufacturer can't be sued.
Right.
He didn't do that. And the liquor distributor can't be sued. And on and on. The chain that made that liquor available, that's what they're saying here. If they repeal that, the chain that made the gun available when the gun is misused, or the car is misused, or whatever, the lawnmower, Everybody will go out of business. I mean, I'm glad I'm ready to retire, because if this happens, there will be no guns for sale the very next day.
Yeah,
you may count on that, because who could afford the insurance cost?
Oh, insurance would be staggering.
You couldn't write it.
And folks, let me just throw, and Bob brought up a very good point about insurance. Let's say this gets passed, or in Hillary's mind gets rescinded, which she can't legally do. If that happens, everything that man manufactures that's misused by someone else means that they could be sued, the manufacturer. So that means, and literally, like, I go back to the cars, GM could be sued, the dealers could be sued, the parts manufacturers could be sued, the tire manufacturers could be sued, the oil company who supplied the gasoline could be sued. And that's
the guy that owns the boat that bought the product.
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. We've become this crazy happy bunch of people. It accomplishes nothing. It's a feel good piece of.
And if you think it won't affect you, the gun you have now, you decide you don't want it anymore, you sell it to somebody, guess what? You have entered it into commerce. You're responsible for what everybody else does with that gun down the chain too. It's not just manufacturers. So good luck with that. Researcher and economist John Lott, great guy. If you've not read any of his stuff, he does a lot of research on gun issues and real crime stats and so forth. He discovered just by accident, really looking at carry permit holders, they're increasing about 75% more quickly. They're increasing dramatically, as we all know. But it's 75% more increase than in minorities rather than whites. The big growing group of people getting CCWs and buying guns, we know as women, but it's minorities. They've increased by 75% ahead of the huge increase in white people buying. Now, I know that there's a lower crime rate under Obama because he always says that. So why are these people getting carry permits if the crime rate's down? Lenny, you're the federal cop.
I'm a former federal cop. I did retire. It's funny that we have this on the show today, because on the way over here I was listening to another radio show, and John Lott just happened to be the guest, and he had an amazing. Here in Nevada we have coming in November, folks. Question number 1: whether or not the universal background checks. He put out a very, very interesting statistic. Hillary came out, I think it was yesterday or today, and said, well, background checks have stopped 2.8 million people, bad people, from having guns. That is complete falsehood. It has been the reason why those 2.8 million people got their guns got denied for the initial purpose, was because their names were like someone else who had a criminal record. And it takes time to get that. So those people got denied. I am a perfect example of that. At this very establishment several years ago, I went to purchase a handgun. And this gentleman right here called up the people for the check, and they denied me. And they denied me because there was another Leonard Davis who happened to be born the same birth date as I am. He happened to be a completely different race, and he also had an extensive criminal record. And I will never forget when Bob goes, well, look, here's the thing. He's a federal agent, and he is standing in my store, and he has his credentials right here. He is not that Leonard Davis. And luckily, that person that was doing the background check said, okay, you can have the gun.
Yeah, that was in the old days when they would listen to us.
Yeah, exactly. Now anymore, I don't know. So, I mean, here's here is I'm a living, breathing, example of why this goes sideways.
Yeah. And of note, Chicago Tribune reported on the 8th, Monday, that the 8th, or on the 9th, that the 8th, Monday, was the deadliest day in Chicago in 13 years. 19 people shot in Chicago, 9 of them killed, including a 10-year-old boy, when somebody fired 9 shots in the front of his home and hit this 5th grader in the back. This makes the most homicides in a single day in the city since July 5, 2003, when 10 homicides were recorded. That's according to the data of the Chicago Tribune, which does track all this stuff. So Chicago has the toughest gun laws, arguably, in the country. Impossible. Now you can get a permit. Impossible, though, to buy a gun. They've passed laws that have disarmed most of the victims. And yet, they had 19 people shot, 9 of them killed last weekend. Gun laws work. They disarm the guys who would shoot back. This story is a prime example of why all this crap doesn't work. Running out of time. Crossroads of the Gun Show this weekend. Again, I've got some passes for that. If you want to drop me an email there, and with your first name and your phone number, I will put tickets out for you at our cashier. I'm going to be there at our table from at least 11 to 12 at the Cashman Show. There's a seminar ahead of that I'm doing for Newsmax. There's a panel discussion ahead of that. I'll be there at 10, but I'll be back being a celebrity or whatever. Anyway, this is the big show. It's got everything there, huge vendors, lots of ammo guys. You'll love it. Thanks for listening to us on YouTube. Be sure and like us on Facebook. I found another one that says friend. Next week, we have attorney Bill Gamage, one of my favorite guests, not only a lawyer and a gun lawyer, an ex-law enforcement officer and a firearms instructor. Bill and I taught academies together for years and years.
I worked with Bill. Great guy.
Great. So he's got the 3-phase guy. Mm-hmm. He's Lenny with a law degree. Even better. Even better. I'm sorry, Lenny.
I know. That's all right. My parents were married. I couldn't be an attorney. Sorry. It was only below the hard deck a few seconds. There wasn't a danger. I took the shot. Love you, Bill.
Anyway, we'll be back 1 week from today at the same time, 5 to 6. Hope to see you at the Cashman Show. And again, if you'd like a pass for the show or you have a question or comment, please do that. And please, my new sign. Like us on Facebook. She put a lot of work into that.
She did.
Copying Facebook's logo. That's probably not a copyright infringement, but.
Well, you're not really using it for commercial purposes. Well, okay, you are. 18 U.S.C. 1701. But I don't do that anymore.
You made that up.
No, I didn't.
Oh, is that a real statute?
Yeah, I think it's actually 1801. But anyway.
Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for listening to us one more time. I think we're about 20 seconds out of airtime here. So I appreciate you tuning in and appreciate you watching us. And try to get the word out.
Vote no on question 1. If you live here in Nevada, vote no. It means no. It is going to make things very difficult for you. And for lots of us. We are done.